All right. I think this is okay. I'm Sally Alcoholic.
Sally.
So this was a bit last minute, so bear with me. So I was driving over here, and I just was thinking through where I was 10 years ago this weekend. And I remember I was dating this guy, and he had told me, like, hey, I'm going out of town for the weekend, so come over Friday, we'll have pizza. Then in the morning, like, you could take me to the airport. And I was like, yeah, for sure, like, totally, right? And it was Friday after work, and my coworker's like, hey, let's go have a drink. And of course, I could never say no, right? And we ended up at a bar, and I was like, well, I'll only have one, and then I'll go, And then it was two, and then this guy kept texting me, where are you? Are you coming? Like, the pizza's almost here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way, right? And so I kept telling him, I was like, coming, and it was like, I think by the time I realized it, this is like many drinks later, it must have been like 11 or 12 or something like that, when I was supposed to be there at like 6. So I can't drive, and I'm responsible, right? So I Uber to his place, and he's like, well, how are you going to take me to the airport? And I was like, oh, we'll Uber, And he was just so confused, right? Because it was like, this person didn't really know how I drank yet, but I think he started to see, like, he had started getting hints of, like, how I actually drank. And I remember that night he told me, you know what? He's like, you put drinking in front of everything. And he's like, I don't know if I can do that. And I was like, what? I was like, no, that's not true, And, in a sense, like, that made me feel like he was finding out, right? Like, he was, like, finding out, like, this truth that, like, well, I had this life on the outside that I protected, and it looked normal. Behind the scenes, it was like, I was that person that I had that one drink, and I could not stop until I blacked out. Like, I could, like, physically not put any more in, like, my body. And when that happened, I usually would be like, okay, like, what's next? Like, I know I can't drink anymore, so what's next? And I never was into drugs like that, but it was the what's next usually, right? And that's how I spend my 20s, in the what's next, in the drinking and being, like, partying and, going out to clubs and, doing all these things. And the next day, a friend would be like, hey, like, we almost died, And I was like, that's okay. Like, let's go out again tonight. Let's do it again tonight. And let's see how far we can go. And I spent my 20s that way. That's what I did. I lived to party. Like, the whole, like, work hard, like, play hard. I was like, no, that's me, And by the time I think I was in my late 20s, I was like, well, maybe it's not a phase. Maybe it's just like a personality thing, But, like, not to say that I didn't drink without consequence. Earlier, yes, there weren't too many consequences, but the more I drank, the more consequences there was. I had, minor divorce. I, like, cheated on my husband many times, disappointed my family, told my family members how I felt about them. Right, so it was just like, I kept just getting worse and worse. I kept losing friends. And there was this pattern, right? And, like, the next morning I would, or 2 mornings later, I would be very remorseful. I'd feel, like, horrible, right? And I would write in my journal, and I would say, like, I just want to stop drinking. Like, I just want to stop. And it was like every New Year's resolution, that was the first thing. I'm like, I just want to stop drinking. And it just, like, felt so out of control. And that's, I lived that way for a long time. Just, like, binging. I never was an everyday drinker, but I was always, like, a binger. And I think, like, towards the end of my drinking, it was, it was sadder. It was, like, more depressing. And I would, like, try to make sense of my drinking, where I would say, well, I don't really have a problem because it's orange juice with vodka, so it's not like I would be drinking vodka straight if I really had a problem. But all of that to say is that I had a big problem with drinking. And, at one point I had enough. Like, I had enough. Like, I ended up calling my ex-husband, and I was like, he had already moved on. He had like another relationship. And I was like, this is all your fault, blah, 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 whatever you say when you're drunk. And I talked to his like fiance at that time, and I told her what I thought as well. And the next morning he called me and he's like, you do this too much. He's like, you need to get help. And I was like, I don't know why I heard him that one time after 10 plus years of saying that to me. And I went to rehab, and somebody told me, like, this is your day one. I was like, day one of what? This was a completely foreign concept to me and anybody in my family, like, that I could be an alcoholic. But yeah, I got in. I ended up, like, working with, I can't even tell you how many sponsors I work with, but, eventually just all I did is just come back. Like, even when I didn't want to, I came back. When I was, like, angry at this program, when I hated the shares, and I was like, why is everybody so happy? Like, why am I sitting here with you? Like, what did I do so wrong in my life that I'm here, Through all of those, I think just the highs and the lows, like, I stuck it out, right? And that's, like, the one thing I'm super proud of myself for is, like, sticking it out. When it was bad, when it was good, when it was ugly, when I didn't want to, when all I wanted to do was drink, I still, like, just hung out onto it, right? And I hung onto it because it was so hard to get here. And one of, like, I think the most important things that I've learned throughout this process is just, like, really learn how to, like, live a life. Like, I don't think I knew how to live before. I think I just, like, wanted to escape. And that was, like, the only thing that I was concerned with. And so here it's like I've learned to have, like, more patience for myself. I learned to give myself a little bit of space to just, like, not be in a good place, right? And know that it's going to get better. Like, maybe not immediately, but in a reasonable amount of time. And there's tools today, right, that I have to actually be able to manage, like, this life, right? I came in here and I very much knew that my life was unmanageable by me. And I found a way to live here, right? And I think in the book it says, like, you get a design for living. And I, like, completely agree with that. And that's what I got. And today I'm married to this guy who I couldn't take to the airport, who I couldn't show up for. And, I take him to the airport and I pick him up too, right? Like, wow. And I think about, like, his needs and, like, and how to be a wife and how to be a mother and how to be, like, an employee and how to be a manager and, like, how to be somebody for somebody else, right? And I couldn't do that. I couldn't show up for people in my life. And I think that's the biggest thing I've, like, learned here, that I'm like, hey, like, it's not just about me and, like, people doing things for me, but it's about me showing up for others, because I have the power to do that today. And I mean, the life I live today is, definitely something I would have never had imagined. Like, I couldn't even have dreamt of having the life that I have today. And it was, not through one action, but it was through a collection of, like, small actions over almost 10 years at this point. I got sober September 15th. And it really, I'm coming up on this anniversary, and I think being that it's 10 years, it's a big milestone for me. And it's been a time of a lot of reflection, a lot of gratitude. And, I'm not going to lie that it's a little sad too, right? Because I did spend a lot of time. I did hurt a lot of people, which I'm still, like, working through those amends. But today my life has hope, and 10 years ago it didn't. So I don't know how I'm doing on time.
1 minute.
1 minute? Yeah. And I think, like, I will wrap it up at that. That's one, biggest gift here in the program for me has been, like just a feeling of hope. Like, that didn't exist for me. Like, the only thing that existed for me was, like, drugs and alcohol at a point in my life. And today I have hope. I have a sponsor who's here. Jan, thank you. And I know I couldn't have done it without this program, without her help and the help of everybody in the program who's just even given me, like, 1 ounce of, like, shared some wisdom or some hope. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Sally. I'm Alan. I'm an alcoholic. Give Sally one more round of applause. What a wonderful, heartfelt pitch. I apologize for putting you on the spot like that, but it's my job. I also owe you all a big amends. I don't have a speaker tonight. I couldn't find someone to come this evening on the Labor Day. It's my fault. So we're going to have an old-fashioned AA anticipation meeting. We're going to have just 10-minute speakers. And I'd like to introduce our next 10-minute speaker, Zion. Give him a round of applause.
Zion, alcoholic. Oh, wow. Everyone's at the roundup, huh? It's all good. We're still alcoholics. We're still sober. We still got our seats. Hold on to them. It's going to be a bumpy ride, you know. I am not an alcoholic because I drink profusely or that I did hard drugs and I burned my life to the ground and then I burned, everyone's life around me to the ground. I'm an alcoholic because once I have one, I cannot stop. I have a physical allergy to alcohol. It's and mind-altering substances. Once I have one, I cannot stop. And I have an insane mental obsession that I can make the next drink work. Like, I really do believe that, like, I can drink like a normal person if I do a certain formula or certain recipe in order for me to drink. And also just prior to coming into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I had a lot stints of self-management. Like, I would have a few weeks, months of not doing drugs or drinking, and it was always followed by inevitably still worse relapse. And what I failed to understand, because I've been in the rooms for a while since I was 18. I got sober at 21 from just a whole shit show that my life became from drugs and alcohol and debauchery and just alcoholism, untreated alcoholism. And I failed to understand that, in order to have any chance, if I identify as a real alcoholic, and I'm sure everyone here if you're here on a Saturday night in fucking Manhattan Beach, you're probably a real alcoholic. Let's be honest, bro. And I'm a real alcoholic, so I really need this really bad. And what I need most of all is a spiritual defense and a spiritual experience in order for me to have an anesthesia better than alcohol provided me. Right? Because a life driven off fear of losing the fucking car, or the family, or the chick, or anything like that, that's not gonna last for me. Right? I am a real alcoholic. When I drink, I cannot stop, and when I cannot stop, I don't stay stopped, and I get put in hospitals, sanitariums, rehab facilities. I'm all over the place, and what this program has provided me is not just my life back, right? Because everyone, gets the cool shit when they get sober. They get the chick, the car, the job, and who cares about that? What this program, these 12 steps have provided me is an instructional manual to life and how to approach it and to enlarge my spiritual life, right? And it says in the book, the only way that you can have any chance, if you're a real hopeless alcoholic of the hopeless variety, is the spiritual approach. And through just work, just a rigid, honest moral inventory and just everything in terms of a real deep-rooted understanding of the first step, that I am powerless and unmanageable over alcohol, has just really provided me the firm bedrock where I'm just I can build up from there in terms of having any sort of chance to stand up to king alcohol, or just myself, honestly, the mental obsession, the physical allergy. And I don't know. I have 10 minutes. How much time do I have? You check. I have 6 minutes. All right, I'm going to talk about, I'm a war story a little bit. You guys want to hear a war story? Yeah, so, dude, I love drugs and alcohol, love anything that, like, gets me going from the neck up, like, and I'm not here. Like, I could talk, like, in front of all you people and be, like, super fun and, like, imagine. No, just kidding. But, I really needed this place. I really needed the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, like, my whole life, because I burn everything to the ground, right? Like, I came into the rooms because thank you, because I overdosed on fentanyl, and I'd done it multiple times. Yeah, I know. Fuck. Fuck that. But no, I did. But that's not what makes me an alcoholic. You know, what made me an alcoholic was I did that shit and I kept using, and I didn't stop. And I really have like a real deep appreciation for like the altruistic approach of Alcoholics Anonymous, where I felt like for once in my life, like someone cared about me that that wasn't being paid to do it. You know. And for a long time, I really struggled with a lot of like weird, just I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Fuck. It's like 10 minutes. It's like so weird. It's like such a weird time frame. Like, oh, let me just throw AA facts at you. Maybe you didn't know them. Yeah, so I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, right, without drugs and alcohol. And like I said before, like before alcohol and drugs for my anesthesia for life, I could not go throughout my day without being on some sort of substance that makes me feel like I'm going through the day easily, like just like easily going through the day and just kind of time traveling. If anyone remembers, I'm sure we all do, like just being so intoxicated that we just forget or we black out or we're just cruising through the day. And, you know, I really felt like such a relief through working 12 steps. And I know a lot of people here have probably worked, you know, all 12. But, you know, every day I just try to, improve my spiritual life and try to carry and help as much as possible in the rooms of AA. I'm really busy right now because of school, but like I recently had like this like epiphany where like I was not working any sort of a program, and I wasn't, and then I got a new sponsor and I got like 3 commitments, and I've just been like really trying really hard on reworking the steps and like relearning the steps, and I just condone anyone that like is struggling right now, because I felt like really bad the other month. Like I was just like I have like 3.5 years sober, and I felt horrible. Like I felt so bad. I was like, dude, this is not working. And I found a new sponsor and we're reworking the steps, and like, you know, I got these commitments, and I'm learning deeper and deeper about like AA, and I'm learning more about like, you know, the doctor's opinion, going through that, and like there is a solution, and then like more about alcoholism and like we the agnostics, and like really diving deep into like the actual disease, which is alcoholism, right? It's a disease of the body and mind, and like it's not like a moral choice. Like for a long time I thought it was a moral choice that like I did the things I did, and the way I lived my life was like such just on me, and I can't do this thing on my own. And you know, I'm grateful for everyone here. I don't really know what to say in 10 minutes, like a 10-minute time frame. It's kind of weird. I was put on the spot. I'm sorry. Thank you.
One more time. Give him a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, who's next? Come on up. Oh, do it. Great. Glad you're here.
Hello, Carson, alcoholic. I've never really got a chance to speak in front of a crowd. I just got 9 months of sobriety 3 days ago. Thank you. And I just turned 26 on the 20th of August, and it's quite crazy what addiction has done in my life since about the time I was 12 years old, and the first time I tried a substance that altered my mind. I grew up in a family that I couldn't have asked anything more from. I had extremely loving parents. I had a brother, a sister, a very close family. My stepdad was a cop. And you know, I never would have thought, if you told me that I was younger, that I was going to grow up and I was going to, I thought drug addicts and alcoholics were just like what homeless people did. You know, I didn't think that it could happen to anyone. And so the first time I tried a substance, I was, like I said, about 12 years old. And growing up, I was kind of a scrawny little kid, grandma's boy. I was never like a fighter or a person who would, you know, be irritable about things. I would always want people to not fight, want dad and mom not to scream. And so I started off just smoking weed a lot. And then my brother ended up turning into a heroin addict. And I told myself, like, that's what drugs is. Like, I'm never going to do anything that involves a needle or anything like that. If I'm just drinking and smoking pot, you know, I'm not an addict. And just like you said, Zion, like, what makes me an addict is when I do one, I cannot stop. One's too many and 1,000's never enough. I ended up, my brother got so bad, he had torn our family apart, and I had moved out to Colorado Springs at about 18, 19 years old after I had ruined a relationship that I was in. I was head over heels for this girl, and I did alcohol, which led me to cheat on her, and I got honest with her, broke her heart, and I moved out to Colorado Springs, and I thought that if I just moved states, everything was going to change. You know, like, I got a new start. I'm not with those old people. Well, very shortly, I ended up finding something called ketamine, and then I started drinking really bad, and I had an old buddy from high school move in with me, and we lived together a whole entire year and didn't have any problems whatsoever at all until one night he decided to take a Xanax that somebody had given to him, and he put hands on this girl that I was hanging out with that night. So we dropped him back off at my house, and then next morning I go back to my house. He destroyed everything that I owned, cut my clothes in half, couches in half, destroyed his phone, my phone. I couldn't pay for the house in whole. I was only 20, 21 years old at the time. So I ended up having to move back to Oklahoma City, and that's where I found alcohol. I saw all my old high school friends. It had been a really long time, and it started off me just having a drink out like at the lake wakeboarding with my friends, and I thought it was like funny the first time I blacked out. Everyone else did too. They, you know, took pictures of me like laying face first down on the ground. And then that just became, I went from drinking every day to, I got to a point where I'm waking up at 5 a.m. before my 6 o'clock work shift, and I'm already drinking 8-point beers. And I'm convincing myself, you know, this isn't that bad. It's beer. You know, like you said, it's just orange juice. But I also had gotten a car wreck in 2013, and I had epilepsy ever since then, and I never see myself have seizures. Other people see it, but I don't witness it because I'm not coherent when it happens. And my family, my sister, my grandma had just seen me keep having seizure over and over and over again in front of them, and it never bothered me like what they thought when I came out of it, because I was always drunk. And the first time I tried to go to AA was in Oklahoma after I'd came back from Colorado, and I went into this little Oklahoma City room, and there's like 4 80-year-old women that are like pinching my cheek, like, "Oh, you're so cute, come sit next to me." And it's like, damn, I don't think this is for me. But actually at the end of the meeting, some random guy named Peter walked up to me and he just offered me a job. And, I'm pretty beaten down after I just got back from Colorado. So I get my foot in the door then, but I don't really want to be sober at this point. I'm still drinking behind the scenes and everything. And one of my last drinks, I had already got 2 DUIs. I wasn't driving. I went to go help my 88-year-old grandfather repave his patio. And I don't know why I was such a dumbass. I was training for marathons, and I would just get drunk and run and run and run. And I had walked 14 miles to his house, and he had left to go to the store, and he asked if I needed anything. I said, no, I'm fine. And when he left, I went through his cabinets. I drank some Crown, and that's the last thing I remember. He came back home, and I was having a seizure face first in the wet concrete in his house. And that's when my dad looked at me and he said, you can get help or you can consider yourself dead to me. And that's not something I ever thought my father would say to me. So in the last 2 years I had lived in Oklahoma, 4 of my very close friends, actually 5 of my very close friends, all passed away from fentanyl. My neighbor was this very intelligent girl. She was in high school, and she had just taken the wrong pill, overdosed, and died. And my best friend girlfriend died on fentanyl, and then my best friend he passed away on fentanyl. And 2 weeks before he passed, he was going to come to Clear Recovery out here in Los Angeles, and I ended up looking the place up and. Coming out here, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, going to the sober living and everything that I have done. But this is the first time I've actually been able to experience what sobriety can be like experience that I can have fun without having, I don't need to go to a party and drink and just make myself a fool. I can develop genuine relationships in sobriety. I can have real conversations. I can own up to my faults of the wrong that I have done and learn how to better them. This program helps me how to work on my defects that I struggle with day in and day out. Like, what's the root of our disease? It's selfishness and self-centeredness. And I've just been able to get vulnerable and be actually talk about the things that are on my mind. And it's crazy. Today at 11 o'clock, me and a guy who just graduated the sober living crash, we're on the way to the beach, and we got T-boned at 45 miles an hour in a Fiat. The car spun in a complete 180, and then we got T-boned again. He snapped his leg in half, and this is in a Fiat, a little bitty Fiat, and you never know when your last day can be. Like, what do you want to leave this world? What person do you want to be remembered as? Do you want to be remembered as that drunk who was funny to laugh at, who was face first, but yelling at women or ruining relationships left and right? Or do you want to be that person that's going to help the next alcoholic who comes into this room and to pass this thing on? What I think is so incredible about these rooms is, it's not a business. This, like you said, we're here on a Saturday night to try getting something for ourselves, but also to pass this on to the next person. And I was raised in a Christian home, a Baptist home, going to church every single Sunday of my life. But I never personally, I was there, but I was never there. I was zoning out. I wasn't really giving it the attention, but I saw how it worked in my grandmother's life. I saw how it worked in my brother's life after he got off of the heroin. I saw how it might work in my family, and then I've finally got to develop my version of God in my head through this sober living, through these other people. And now I feel this sense that something is watching me even when I'm away from everybody else. I can do something or have just a bad thought or do something behind closed doors, but it doesn't sit well with me because I know it's wrong. Not just because somebody else saw me do it. I genuinely know how to be a good person today and what is right from wrong. And I've got to learn that I'm not just going to be perfect ever through this program. We're always going to have difficulties throughout the day, but at least I can recognize these things today that I would have never recognized in the past. But yeah, I still have so much time to go. I did have a relapse at 5 months into the sobriety, and that was my very rock bottom. I didn't even plan on relapsing that day, and it just started with a mental relapse. I saw a liquor store sign, and I thought I could do it one time, no one would know. And as soon as it touched my lips, I couldn't stop. And once I did it once, I was like, I already relapsed, might as well do it again. And next thing I know, I'm laying in some homeless dude's hammock. And by the grace of God, but the people came through my house and somehow found me in El Segundo, hidden in trees, just started screaming my name. And I knew I could have made the decision right there. I can hop out, go get in the car, or I can go back to Colorado, which was my plan. And something drove me to get back in that car, but that was my rock bottom. And that's why we can't force people to be here. The people who make it in AA is people who want it for themselves and who have hit that rock bottom and have seen what this disease can take us to. And I had to experience it in a pretty rough way, but that was my best moment so far in sobriety. I needed that day to relapse and see that I am absolutely powerless over this disease. And if I don't continue to seek the help and follow this program, I can't do it on my own. I can't do it without you guys. I mean, it's so cool that we all have one common goal, and we may have all came from a different home, but we all have one thing in common, and we can relate on so many different levels. It's quite incredible to me, and I'm very grateful that I got the chance to come here tonight and speak. I was supposed to be at work, but they called me off after the car incident. So thank you for letting me share, and thanks for having me out.
Next.
Lance Alcoholic. I'm glad that the podium isn't on stilts this weekend, Alan. I was worried about it last time. Lance Alcoholic. Thank you for everybody who shares. Yeah, cool and unique format. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to touch on that. I am grateful with where I'm at with my sobriety. I have 4 years sober, and I came from a place that was, yeah. And I don't say that to rest on my laurels or anything like that, but I mean, I came from I say that because it is very possible, and I was kind of, right, I was beyond the horizon. I thought I was at the point of no return, and it's really easy when you get in that perception and way of thinking. It's hard to come out of that, just because we will convince ourselves of, if we are set out to convince ourselves of something, we absolutely can, and we absolutely will. I would rationalize, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who rationalizes in this room, and it runs circles around me, and it's very interesting because if I were to look into the psychology behind it, right, I am somebody who's they could be super genuine, right, mean well, and tell me and give me suggestion, and I don't want to be controlled, and so I will resist. And it was people who wanted to help me most, right, who I'd bite the hand that feeds me, and I wouldn't accept it because I didn't want the help. I didn't want people to tell me how I should be living, right? I didn't want anybody else governing me. But it's ironic because I was completely fine, right, with alcohol governing every facet of my life, and I was completely controlled in that way. And so it's interesting how something so obvious, right, that's right in front of my face is that I contradict myself. You can't control me. Nobody can control me. People who want to help me, who know what's best, can't control me. But I'm fine, right? When it's alcohol, when it's myself, when it's my when it's addiction, just controlling every aspect of my life, right? It's I don't find that objectionable, and so I've had to do a lot of kind of soul searching on that, and it's very hard. One of my favorite parts in the big book is I am unable at certain times to bring into my consciousness with sufficient force the suffering and humiliation of a week or a month ago, and it's in italics, and I remember that part, and it's almost poetic. It has a poetic ring to it a little bit, but it's always stuck with me, and it's true because I still do get in those stages where it is that like I need to go to a meeting and I need to hear a newcomer raise their hand and just I hear the way that they share, I hear the way that they talk, and it's important just to keep myself in sync with that, because I have that part of that little voice in the back of my head. It still speaks to me, and a lot of times it sounds like you'll see a newcomer share, and I'm thinking exactly the same thing. And so it's very important just to kind of keep myself grounded and recognize the reality of the situation I'm in, where it is that my mind will tell me those things. I have a great sponsor. I've been working with him for probably two-ish years now. He recommends me, to listen to different AA speakers, Joe Hawk, Don Pritz, pretty prominent, some pretty prominent people, and I've listened to some of their talks, powerful stories. But he's very psychology based, right? And I always joke because we'll be talking about something. He goes back into his den, his library, and he'll grab a book, right, and come out, and he has all the highlights. He memorizes all this, like he's an encyclopedia. And so he talks to me, and a lot of stuff just goes right over my head. But it takes a while for it to resonate. But when it does, it's like I understand what he's saying. And the big books. The same way a lot of times, where it is that I'll read something, it won't resonate, right? I think of when I was new. But over time, right, it's like stuff just really kind of starts to click. Stuff that was very abstract, it absolutely starts to click. I like when it talks about, my sponsor always talks to me about the false self, right? Where it is that I attribute all these things to me, and it could be physical attributes, it could be, right, what kind of car I drive, where I work, whatever it is. Like our ego tends to build that up, and it becomes so part of our identity that we'll do anything to defend it. But it's delusional, because my sponsor goes, is that who you are, right? And the answer is it's hard to define who you are, but it's not by having that ego and by basically saying what you are, we try hard to defend that, and it's so stressful to constantly defend our egos, to constantly have to live up, because it's an expectation we set of ourselves, right? It's like I'm like into technology or whatever, and it's like I always have to be up to date on the newest stuff, right? Because people always go, and so it's this expectation that I have, right, where it's like I have to be the person to do all this because I attribute that to myself, but it's maintaining this facade that's not even really me. And so it's just interesting, because I will set myself out to be discontent, absolutely, and I get very arrogant. I talk to old timers, and I get insecure when it is that I'm sharing, because it's like I don't have so much divine wisdom like these old timers, right, who just know how to speak, know how to talk. And I was talking to my sponsor, and I go, I feel like I'm too young to have like an impact or to say anything wise, right? It's going to be dismissed. But he talked about how a lot of times, right, like when you get older, more stuff just kind of builds up within our ego, and everybody kind of, it says it in the book, everybody has the fundamental idea of God or something along those lines, right? And he hits on the point where it's like people have to unlearn their way back to God, because we build up all this stuff with our ego, and it's just all this stuff, right? And we have to deduce. It's not a matter a lot of times of like I have to learn all this stuff. Like reading the big book in the literature, like it helps, right? Absolutely helps having like a head full of AA, but it's more about kind of unlearning than it is learning. At least that's the way it is for me, where I had to unlearn habits, I had to unlearn thought patterns, I had to unlearn all that stuff. And then my mind would would shut up. Like it absolutely would shut up. So, I mean, the steps are very important for me. Commitments are very important to me. I really enjoy this meeting a lot, but I didn't used to always think like this, right? Like I've been in some gnarly situations, right? And I feel bad, and I have a lot of sympathy for people who struggle. I was in class earlier this week, and this one kid, right? He walks in, and he's just completely on. He's high. He's some sort of stimulant, right? And the teacher really didn't know how to handle it. He's not used to being around that. And so, and some of the other students, right? Like they didn't have that insight into it. Like I could tell from a million miles away, because I've been in that position. And so I felt bad. I felt sympathy, and he ended up getting kicked out of the class. But it was interesting, because like it brought back a lot for me, and I felt bad because I mean when I was in my use when I was running it. I didn't even have the balls to show up to class. It's like this kid, he showed up, and so it's little things like that. And I ended up, I talked to him for a little bit. I had my 4-year chip in my pocket. Part of me was like, maybe I should show him, maybe I shouldn't. I didn't want to be too intrusive. I mean, attraction rather than promotion. I wasn't trying to, I don't know. I mean, I guess opinions vary on like how I should have handled that. But I talked to my sponsor about it, and it was resolved. And he gave me some good feedback. And that's what I've been taught to do, is just run my thinking through other people. Because I don't know everything, right? Like I don't even fully understand God. It'd be arrogant for me to think that I do. And so it's a constant learning process, but I've learned a lot throughout the different treatments. I've learned a lot on psychology, the groups, the therapy, everything like that. But I mean, everything really is more peaceful when you do have a higher power and a God. And they talk about that, right? Where it's like earthly things, like it doesn't matter. The big book says, job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply won't stop drinking so long as we place dependence on people above dependence on a higher power. And it's like that counterintuitive thing where the more dependent you are on a higher power, the more independent your life is, because you don't have to. The more that I try to control, the less control I have, and so it's one of those paradoxes. It took me a long time to learn that, right, to get that through my thick head. A lot of frustration. And it's cool to see some of the progress I made, and I still try to make more. I mean, I've been through many treatments. I mean, I was in this one treatment, and I've said this before, but their job was to break down the ego, and they would only have us listening to, this was maybe 5 years ago, Taylor Swift. That was all we were allowed to listen to. Now, today, maybe, I mean, you have all these Swifties, and so it's like, maybe that's cool. But back then, I mean, you put a bunch of alcoholics and drug addicts together, it tears down their ego a little bit. And so that's something that I needed. And, as I work with others, like I have to, that is something I take inventory, and I'm able to spot defects. When before I wasn't able to spot defects. How am I doing on time? I don't want to go over. 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say too, like with service, I was super against service. I was super against spirituality, super against, like stuff like meditation. My first experience with meditation was probably, I remember watching Gladiator with Russell Crowe and Marcus Aurelius. So it's a historical fiction movie, but Marcus Aurelius is a real person. He wrote the thing called Meditations. It's like, I forget what it's on. But I was like, oh, okay, cool, like meditation. I'm going to get into this, right? I hear people talking about spirituality. And I get through like maybe the first page and I fall asleep. I was young, and then I was like, this is kind of boring. And then I went off and watched the next Gladiator, Roman movie, whatever, right? Like that's what my attention span was. And like that really wasn't it. But being able to like be patient, have thoughts kind of flow in and out now, like there's just some sort of inner peace and spirituality I have where it's like I can hit my knees, I can meditate if I need to, I can wake up, I could say 7-step prayer, right? Where it's God, take I'm now willing to give the good and bad, right? All myself to you, both good and bad, to remove every single defect of character, stand in the way of you and my usefulness to others, because I can't afford to be selfish. And I have little prayers like that where it's, I implement them in my day, and I couldn't see myself doing that. And so anybody's capable of doing it. I was so argumentative. I didn't want to believe anything. I was arguing with people at Barnes & Noble in the current affairs section. So just to go from there, right where it is to where a more humble approach, it really does, it really is possible. So I don't know, I guess I'll end with that.
Ryan, alcoholic. I guess I've been coming to this meeting for about maybe 2 years. I have 3.5 years sober, similar to Lance and Zion. Thank you. And I wasn't so sure how all of this worked when I was new. I thought, how does believing in God and doing the steps, how does that fix my problem with drinking and drug addiction? Because for me, I felt like I had spirituality in my life before I got sober, and I wasn't so sure that it would help, but I'm definitely glad I stuck it out and trusted the guys around me, because I don't think I would have made it this far if I didn't listen to what was said to me and, just give it up to God. And my biggest thing that I think helps me with staying sober is helping others. Well, in the sober living I went through, we would write essays, and I would always change the topic to how can I help out the newcomer. And I just thought that was a fun thing to write about. So, but with my story, I guess I probably did a lot of different things alcoholically when I was younger. For example, collecting cards or wanting to get autographs from basketball players or things like that, But then once I got older, I saw my parents drink, and they would only drink on the weekends, and my dad would only have 1 or 2 beers, and I didn't think they had problems with drugs or alcohol. I didn't see anyone around me have problems with drug or alcohol. I thought it was just like something that everyone does and uses as a way to relax, I think my dad gave me a sip of beer when I was maybe 7 years old, and that was nice because it tasted terrible, but I felt like I was drinking what he drank, and I thought that was cool. So, but the first time I remember going to a school dance and mixing together all the different alcohol bottles in my parents' liquor cabinet. And then I drank that, and I had a great time at the dance, and that was probably my, I arrived moment. I was like, oh, I'm the nerdy kid, no one's going to think that, because I got good grades in high school, but I was like, no one's going to think that I'm one of those kids that'll cause trouble and is drinking at the dance so I can get away with it, but no one else can. And so that continued to be a reason for me to sort of drink and use as I got older. And then once I got into college, because I'm 31, I got into a good school. I remember on the first day I got there, my parents were like, Ryan, don't smoke pot until we leave at least. But I didn't. I smoked pot while they were still there with my roommate. And so, while they're in my dorm room, putting all my bed together and stuff, so I really didn't have any self-control. And for me, I enjoyed drinking, and marijuana is a big part of my story. Once I got older, I got in this really serious car crash. I broke my back and had 30 lacerations in my back as well. And so, I got a whole bunch of money from the insurance settlement and spent it. In 3 months, I spent $30,000 all on weed. So, that was, that's how serious my addiction was. And I continued to use for the next 10 years until I was 28. I eventually, one day during COVID, I was going through so much physical pain that I tried choking myself out multiple nights in a row to try to basically end my life. Then I asked my parents to send me to the psych ward. I went to the psych ward and then came back. Next day, was my first day sober, actually. I used, and then I broke all of my supplies, and I ended up just getting sober from that day on. And what it's like now is I got fired literally a week before COVID started, so I couldn't get unemployment, which was terrible. And so that was really difficult. But I got hired at the place that fired me for sending videos of me smoking to my coworkers, and I had actually made the excuse that I was Rastafarian, so I was doing it for religious reasons, and they it's yeah, and I truly did believe part of that, but I don't know. It's like when a religion will get you out of like legal trouble. It seems like it's something worth believing in, I guess. But so yeah. But I got rehired at that company, and I still work there today. But I mean, I only work there 1 day a week now because I got a better job, and so I work in recovery now as well, and that's been a gift because I'm only a driver, so I drive the guys from their sober living to like the I guess it's the rehab, and they get to talk with me, and I learn all about their stories, and that's my way of, contributing to their lives. And it's not like I'm like in charge of what they do or anything, but I feel like those car rides, you get a lot of important stuff in. Like if they're going through it, I'll try to give them advice. And one thing I've been struggling with is I raise my hand at meetings. I talk with all the guys at the house I went through, and I still haven't found a sponsee yet. I had one guy ask me to be his sponsor, and the manager said no. So I haven't figured that out yet, but I really want a sponsee. And it's not like I'm not trying, and I guess I try to be there for anyone in AA, even if I'm not their sponsor. But yeah, I've around 2 minutes left, so I guess my relationship with my parents has gotten way better. Like I made amends with them, and my mom was crying during the amends, which was great. I even got to make amends with this girl. That it's a strange story. I guess I won't go into it, but it involves like a weird situation with like our friendship, and I'd sort of made up that we were dating, and I had to make amends to her for that, and it was strange, but I mean, I'm glad to have her back in my life. And so yeah, this program has just done so much for me, and I really wouldn't have anything in my life without it. And this meeting is also great. And, if you've never been here, or if you come here a lot, like I'm sure you can tell how much it means to the people that come here. So thanks for letting me share.
Are you guys interested in a quick 5-minute coffee break? And sure. Yeah? Yeah. Let's do that. No, thank you, bro.
I wanted everyone to hear my story.
Derek, alcoholic. Derek. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so I'm just gonna give like a warning. Like whenever I share, like I get really sweaty, so it's gonna happen. It's only a matter of time. But anyways, the real start to my pitch is I just want to say I have so much gratitude, and this meeting is so special to me because this was my second meeting in California that I've ever been to. And the speaker, she was really great and very relatable. And this was like at my time of not wanting to admit I was an alcoholic. And I'm still kind of at that point because I am an alcoholic and I want to use again. And I know that if I admit it, then, or once I admit it, then like I'm not going to be able to use again. Because that's like, I mean, I could use again if I was an alcoholic. But like by definition, that's like the bad thing. If you're an alcoholic, you shouldn't drink. That's my whole thing. But anyways, so I started using, I didn't start with drinking. Alcohol has definitely been part of my story. Oh, thank you. Alcohol has definitely been part of my story. But definitely the majority of it was using drugs. The first time that I was not sober, I smoked weed, and I was 13 in 7th grade. And yeah, like I smoked in the bushes, and then when I came out, it was like this like aha experience. Like the sun was shining, the colors were so vibrant, and I was like, this is so cool. Like why would I ever want to be sober? And so yeah, like off to the races. Next I drank alcohol at my friend's place. I got crossed. that was a crazy experience. And then, you know, I remember, man, I don't know if this is like appropriate to share. I don't know if this is appropriate to share because it's okay. It might just be like war stories, you know. I don't know. I'm just going through my like experience. Okay. So I was like, you know, I was really scared to like try cocaine when I was like 17 because like I was like I don't want to get addicted, and I was like already addicted to weed and stuff like that. And so I was like so apprehensive, and then I tried it and I'm like, this feels no different than weed, which should have been like a warning, but I just, you know, I was delusional, and I was just blinded by my urge and my need to have, to not be sober. Because, you know, spiritual malady, I was never right with myself. I was always, like, even as a little kid, I couldn't sit with myself. Like, I was desperately trying to escape through, like, video games or sports, things like that. Like always trying to escape my family home, because I would try to go over to my friends' places because like their houses always seemed better than mine. It's just like I wasn't good with myself and with what I had. Forgot where I was going with that. I fast forward to coming here and yeah, having this being, I mean, it's such a great experience like standing up here. Because, like, I've heard some amazing speakers, like, stand at this very podium and, like, give such great messages and tell such great stories. And, I mean, I'm just a guy, you know what I mean? But it's really cool to be able to see, like, everyone from this perspective. So it's, like, an honor, you know? It's, like, a privilege. Because there's not many people here. This is, like, something that only we get to experience. And only we will ever get to experience. Like this moment altogether, anyways. So yeah, I too have found myself at a sober living, and just recently we went on a camping trip, and I did have a very spiritual awakening. That was good English. It was great, and like, what started off was like I accepted like a higher power for myself, which was, you know, this like girl that I would obsess over, which is totally the wrong way to go about it. Because you should, I mean, like I knew while I was making the decision, like this is so wrong. Like you should never like make someone your higher power, because that's like, because like we're all humans, we're imperfect. And to do that is to put them on a pedestal, which was all that I did with her. But that's besides the point. But that like opened my heart to having a higher power. And then so like later in that trip we had a speaker, and he shared about Christ. He said the word Christ one time, and I've been like a devout atheist like my entire life. Like once I went away to college, I would like rock like I would wear like an upside down cross because I thought it was like so cool and so edgy. And I was like, whoa, look at me. I'm like whatever. Like it's so cringe now. And now it's like, just when I think, and my sponsor, he spoke at a meeting yesterday. It's crazy how time flies. It feels like so long ago. But it was last night. And I asked him a question, and basically like in his answer, he said like Jesus Christ was like, you know, if the stories are true, it's like he's like a godsend of a man, like he would just perform miracles. And yet people like took objection to him. Oh yeah, my question was like, you know, how do you like sit right with yourself? Like how do you stop getting out of your head and like feel like everyone's talking about you? And he said, like, you know, like people are going to talk, you know, Jesus Christ is this perfect man. And it's like people like he got crucified, you know what I mean? And it's like It's like he was this perfect guy, and people like somehow didn't like him. He was out there like performing miracles. I'm sorry, maybe this is like inappropriate. I don't mean to be like a pastor, but I'm just sharing my thoughts, man. Thank you. But yeah, so now when I see the cross, it's like I'm not like disgusted, and not repelled. And for me now, it's kind of like my faith is still building. You know, my relationship with my higher powers for sure, and it's a work in progress, as it should be, which is good. Like I'm right where I'm at, but I don't want to rest on my laurels. I don't want to get complacent. I want to continue to grow and continue to be open-minded. But where I stand now, it's like what the cross means to me is like, it's like a reminder of what my sponsor said. It's just like you could be perfect and people could still like dislike you. So it's like, just like do your thing, stay in your lane, and hopefully don't get crucified. And you know, man, what do I want to end with? I'm gonna end with that. Thank you for letting me share.
Can I ask Christine if you'd like to share for 10 minutes? Kathleen, I meant to say. I'm sorry. Wonderful. Give her a round. We needed a female after all this male.
You got your wish, huh?
I did.
Kathleen, addict alcoholic. I got sober in June 9th, 1983. I got sober right before my 30th birthday because I had an offer at the company I was substituting as a consultant, and I was working with a lot of scientists and very highly educated people, and I worked with every department when I was there, and so they wanted me to come on full-time as an independent contractor. And I thought to myself, shit, I can't go in there because I'm out, you know, I drink, you know, these people are normal. And what I contributed my whole drinking, before I started drinking, I was a emotional addict growing up, an emotional addict. And I used, when I became a teenager, my brother got me drunk, and I fed my parrot, and it died. Alcohol. So, you know, and it's like my parents were alcoholics. They were divorced. A lot of horrible, horrible violence and yelling and drinking. I was a latchkey kid, and I took care of my little brother, and to this day we're like real tight. But coming into the program, I walked into this therapist's office because I'm a hairdresser, and he came into the studio I worked at, and I knew he was a therapist, and I heard him talking about different people who were on the program. So I went to him and I said, so, I'm here. He goes, well, why do you think you're here? And I said, I don't know. He says, well, you're an alcoholic. And I went, oh, okay. He says, you go to 7 meetings in 7 days, or you don't come back. I don't want to deal with you. And my first meeting was with Clancy of the Pacific Group. I walked in. I went to sit down. He goes, come over here, honey. He says, you see those 12 steps? He says, you better practice those every day. Otherwise, you're not going to stick around. And so I belonged to the Pacific Group for many years. And then I moved down in this area, and I started going to meetings around here. And I traveled to Hawaii. I traveled to Wisconsin. And when I go to those places, I go to meetings, you know, no matter what. You know, my family knows, or I speak to people, my family, and they go, well, what are you doing today? I go, well, it's my birthday, but I'm going to a meeting tonight. And I went to a meeting this morning in Mar Vista at the park. It's really pretty, and it's just nice, and there's a lot of people, and it's a nice little drive. And I didn't go there because it was my birthday. I went there because I needed to give back. I need to show up. I need to have the young people around to know that this program is going to continue, that, you know, our legacy as AA will be there for those in need. I have dealt with someone who is in bad shape. I had to walk away. It was really bad. It was just, you know, The person's one of us. And you learn around this program that you can't save everyone. And when things get rough, you better save your soul. You better save yourself. You better get, into these meetings because, you can't fix everyone out there. And again, it's part of emotional addiction that causes different problems in my life, even sober, as I have come to realize. And there's a few people in this room that know the exact nature of my situation, but that's okay. We don't need to tell everyone our whole life story, but we do need to tell ourselves what our story is and to be real. And what the hardest part about this program is doing the right thing when no one else is around. That's the hard part. And I go to some meetings where, a lot of big book studies. I found in the beginning of the program, I really needed to go to step studies and book studies, and also to volunteer. I started in 5 minutes. I started this program when there was smoking in the room, and it was like, whoa. And I cleaned ashtrays. To this day, I'm not a smoker, and I look back and I just go, how did I do it? But it's about, I got to know a lot of people, and a lot of people got to know me, who I am in the program, not who I was. My mother died as an alcoholic. My stepfather died as an alcoholic. My father died as an alcoholic. And they died of different diseases caused by alcoholism. It's just not showing up. I did drugs in my before I got sober. I came to California when I was 25 years old. I didn't really start drinking until I was 21 because the drinking age wasn't until 21. And so my drinking career really started at 21 and ended at almost 30. But I hung around from the age of 25 to almost 30 with some of the hardest core, wildest partiers and famous people around. And I would step back and go, I can't hang with these people. They do too much drugs. They party too much. And thank God I had wisdom, and I grew up as a child in the church. So a friend of mine who is a Jesuit priest, he said that saved my life, being in Sunday school and all that. And I've had priests stay at my home when I'm sober. And they stayed with me for 3 weeks because they were alcoholics. He was an alcoholic, and he ran a school in the Midwest. A friend of mine who's a Jesuit priest knew that I was sober and brought him out and said, maybe you can help him. He went to Hazelton in Minnesota. He went there for 6 months. And it's a very expensive place. It's like $1,000 a week, and the church paid for it. But, he left me this very lovely letter. And he's now a bishop. But that's a part of this program about, helping and giving back. It's just, I know you're young, and you think it's like, oh, it's hard. I'm 41 years sober. And there are some moments that are just hard. I didn't know if I was going to get through it. And I just, come to meetings, share my experience, strength, and hope. And also I shared what was going on with me. And that's what the important part of these meetings are, is reaching out. Because when you reach out to another person, you keep two people sober. And that's also with the phone calls. And I am just blessed. I have a good life because I stayed sober And because I did this program, in my work as a consultant, I did it for 25 years, and I was blessed because people knew I was on the program. I didn't hide it. And that's another thing with this program. Nowadays, it's pretty okay to say that you're an addict, alcoholic, and that you go to meetings because they go, oh, their little ears perk up. And I have a lot of clients who have family members or themselves who have had problems, and they know they can come to me and I will keep their anonymity. That's another thing in this program I've learned. When someone shares something about themselves, you don't go, to your other buddies in the program and share it with them, because it's not the person shared it with you because it's about anonymity, nothing else. So thanks for asking me to speak, and I was looking forward towards this meeting tonight. I chose not to go to the roundup because I really want to support the meetings that are going on while the roundup is happening. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. How much time do we have?